Okay, so we'll get started. I'd like to welcome you all to the February meeting of the Long Island Regional Planning Council. My name is John Cameron. I'm the chairman of the council. I'd like to ask our executive director, Rich Gardino, to do a roll call. Rich?
John Cameron.
Present.
Michael White. I see him. Jeff Kraut.
Present.
Teresa Sanders.
Present.
Supervisor Don Clavin.
Present.
Mayor Barbara Dono.
Present.
Nancy Engelhardt.
Present.
Jeff Guillaume.
Present.
Mayor Robert Kennedy.
Present.
And Supervisor Ed Werheim.
Present.
John, delighted to tell you that we have a full complement and a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Rich. As we usually do, we start off our meetings with a Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd ask Mayor Supervisor Ed Werheim to please lead us in a pledge. And as you all know, we always try and remember that and keep in our thoughts and prayers all the members of our armed forces who put themselves in harm's way each and every day so that we can enjoy the freedoms that we do. So Supervisor Werheim, if you'll lead us.
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the
to the
flag
flag
of the
of the
United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
One
one
nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty and justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
Bro.
Thank you, Supervisor. Now I'd like to ask Alan Belniak to please explain the technology for our meeting today. Alan?
Great. Thank you, John, and thank you everyone for joining us. Today we're going to go through several agenda items and then we'll get into a presentation. When it comes time for public comment, either one of the members of the board here will announce that is the case. You have a few options for submitting comment. You can either use the raised hand button down below, which looks like a high five. That will signal to me that you'd like to share your comment or question verbally, and I'll call your name out and I'll invite you to take yourself off of mute and share your comment or question. You may also type your question into the Q&A box down below, and at which time I will read it out loud and someone will respond or react to it. Just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded, and I will remind everyone of these actions once we get to the Q&A session in the event anyone joined late. So with that, I'll hand it back to John.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Rich, next order of business?
Yes, the first order of business is the adoption of minutes of the December 7th, 2023 meeting.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
To adopt?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Teresa. Okay, all in favor? Say
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? So moved.
Yes, the next order of business is the election of officers for the council. And at this time, I'd like to ask for a nomination for chairperson.
I will make the nomination.
Okay.
I guess I should make it that it's John Cameron, so we're clear about it.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? I'll abstain. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I guess so moved. Thank you, everybody. It's a true honor to serve with this council. It's as we all know, we love Long Island, and we have a lot of challenges, but we have a lot of opportunities too. And we work together very hard to make sure that we're representing the island in the best possible light. And it's a real honor to lead you all. So thank you very much. Rich?
Yes, the next item would be the election of the other officers, including the vice chairperson, the secretary, and the treasurer.
Okay.
And John, maybe you want to make a motion?
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd like to make that motion. I'd like to nominate Michael White as our vice chairperson, Jeff Kraut as our treasurer, and Teresa Sanders as our secretary. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Supervisor Clavin. Any other discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? So moved. So I guess we have our slate of officers for the for 2024. Thank you, everybody. Rich,
Yes.
next agenda item.
Yes, thank you all for serving. Resolution 2024-101 authorizes an agreement with Anthony Basile, CPA, to perform an audit of the council for 2023. The Basile accounting firm completed the 2022 audit in a timely, professional manner. The executive committee, consisting of the officers of the council, recommends retaining Basile accounting firm for the 2023 audit, and the resolution authorizes an agreement at a cost not to exceed $18,500.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept?
So
Motion.
moved.
Okay, so moved. Seconded. Jeff Kehoe. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Next, Rich.
Resolution 2024-102 authorizes an accounting consulting extension agreement with Strauss CPA. She's done an excellent job providing accounting services in 2022 and 2023. The executive committee recommends extending the contract with Strauss through December 31st, 2024 at $180 per hour, not to exceed $10,250.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
So moved, Jeff Crowder. Seconded?
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded. Is that Teresa? Okay.
No, it's Barbara
No, it's
Donna.
Donna.
Barbara, I'm sorry,
Barbara.
Barbara.
That's okay.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Rich?
Yeah, John, I should have also mentioned that Strauss is a New York State certified women-owned business enterprise in New York State. And we're delighted that we're able to have her on board. Resolution 2024-103 authorizes a renewal of an agreement with Epic 5 Marketing, Inc. for consulting services, including public relations, social media, education, and marketing strategies for the council, but also the Long Island Nitrogen Action Plan. The council entered into an agreement with Epic 5 Marketing, also a New York State certified women-owned business enterprise, in 2018. The agreement has been renewed annually since all the services rendered have been performed in a professional manner. The resolution would authorize an agreement through December 31st, 2024 for an annual sum of $42,000.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
Okay, Jeff. Seconded?
Second.
Okay, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. I'd just like to add to that Catherine and Mark and Epic 5 have done an excellent job for us. So we're very happy and very pleased with the work that they're doing. And so very happy that they'll be continuing with us. Okay?
Thank
Rich?
you. We are also.
Thank you, Catherine.
Okay, the next resolution is 2024-104, which approves a financial summary for 2023 and a projected budget for 2024. Please note the financial summary for 2023 does not include revenue from the Long Island Nitrogen Action Plan for management and personal services for 2023. The renewal of the line app contract for 2023 has been delayed because New York State has changed the software and programming for New York State grant contracts. We anticipate the processing of the grant will take place in the near future, and revenue for the grant for 2023 is listed in the draft 2024 budget. The executive committee and myself recommend the approval of both the financial summary and the 2024 projected budget.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Jeff Crowder, our treasurer. Seconded?
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Rich?
Resolution 2024-105 authorizes an increase in the hourly rate for line app consultant Rachel Titus from $70 to $75 per hour beginning January 1, 2024. The $70 per hour rate has been in place since January 2020. Ms. Titus serves as program coordinator for Nitrogen Smart Communities, serves on the management team for the Long Island Water Quality Challenge, and assists with other line app related programs.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
I make that motion. It's Barbara Dono.
Okay, Barbara. Seconded?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Jeff Crowd. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. I've also like to add that Rachel's been doing an excellent job for us, so this is entirely appropriate. So thank you, Rachel. Okay,
Thank you.
welcome. Next item.
Resolution 2024-106 authorizes an agreement with Nassau County Soil and Water Conservation District for the transfer of $100,000 of lineup grant funds to the Nassau County Soil and Water Conservation District for administration and management of the septic environmental program to improve cleanliness. This program provides grant funding for eligible recipients to replace a conventional or failing septic system with an innovative alternative wastewater treatment system. The council has previously authorized the transfer of $200,000 of lineup grant funds to Nassau County. The district has submitted a proposal for funds to continue the administration and management of the program. Nassau County and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation have agreed to the direct transfer to Nassau County Soil and Water Conservation District.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion with Supervisor Wareheim, second.
Second.
Okay, Michael. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Next item.
John, the next item is which is Resolution 2024-107, renews the contracts and extends the term of personal service contracts for myself, Liz Cold as the Deputy Director or Executive Director, and Missy Leader, who's our part-time Executive Assistant. We previously sent to you all the summary of work of the council. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, John.
Okay, fine. And the executive committee met and discussed the employment of Rich, Liz, and Missy and compensation. And I'd like our treasurer, Jeff Kraut, to comment on it. We discussed this and we're entirely comfortable at what's being proposed here. So Jeff, if you wouldn't mind making a few comments.
Yeah, no, we just felt that based on a review of performance, the activities, and essentially general market conditions, we recommended for a very modest increase in their compensation. In addition to, given the cost of how health insurance increased as well, a very modest increase as well in the payments that we make towards their health benefits. I think it was an extra, was John,
$650 in health insurance, and the
Yeah.
CPI we had I think 3.5%. So it was
3.5%.
very modest, very modest. Yes. So
And
do I have a motion to approve?
I make that motion.
Okay, Barbara, seconded.
Second.
Okay, second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you.
Yes, thank you all. We appreciate your support. Okay, at this time, it's a pleasure for me to introduce Robert Free, who's the acting president of Long Island Railroad. Mr. Free is a 31-year veteran of the railroad. He has built his career from the ground up. He began his time at the railroad as a station cleaner and later advanced his way to a variety of mission-critical roles, including progressively responsible management positions. Rob led operations through the COVID-19 pandemic, ensuring train service for essential workers, and also helped advance the railroad's Epic Capital program, which included mega projects such as Third Track and Grand Central Madison. Ridership continues to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, and the commutes of tens of thousands of Long Islanders has been transformed by the completion of the Third Track. and the new Manhattan Terminal, Grand Central Madison. Rob, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Richard. Thank you all for having me. It's my pleasure to be here and allowing me to discuss some of the amazing things going on at the Long Island Railroad. And I just would like to elaborate a little bit on introducing myself. I've lived on Long Island most of my life. I currently reside in Port Jefferson Station with my wife and 4 children for about 26 years. I've worked for the railroad for 32 years now. It's another year older, so we're getting there. I started as a station cleaner, working my way up through the organization as opportunities became available. Most recently, Senior Vice President of Operation, where I was responsible for day-to-day operations, as previously mentioned, as well as overseeing the Long Island Railroad's role in progressing our capital plan and including third track and Grand Central Madison. It's an absolute tremendous honor for me now to lead this incredible organization, as we are an integral part of Long Island. And in order for Long Island to be a viable place to live, we need a safe, reliable, and convenient transportation system, which is vital to the sustainability of Long Island and the region. For Long Island to be an attractive place to both live and do business, the transportation system has to provide a real benefit to Long Island. Economic, quality of life, accessibility, and affordability needs must be met. And I believe the Long Island Railroad meets all those needs. As you know, over the last several years, the MTA and Long Island Railroad have invested heavily in Long Island. We have seen generational projects delivered, not only the amount or the size of the projects, but the speed in which they have been delivered is unprecedented. Mega projects such as Ronkonkoma Double Track from Farmingdale to Ronkonkoma. Now, this project entailed double tracking a section of the Ronkonkoma branch, which was previously single track, with some segments of double track. This completed it, enabled us to provide half-an-hour service on the Ronkonkoma branch. Elmont UBS Station, which at the time was the first new station in 50 years on the Long Island Railroad. Mainline third track, and I'd like to thank you, John Cameron, for all your support. You were a tremendous advocate and supporter for that project, and we got it done. And it's been a tremendous boost to our service. With that provided a new track, actually a whole new track of about 10 miles from Queens Village to Hicksville. And that provided tremendous capacity for us to improve and increase our service. So again, another magnificent project. Yard expansions, both new yards and expanding existing yards. And for those who haven't, I sure hope you can get to Penn Station to see the improvements down there. The 33rd Street Hall, which runs from 7th to 8th Avenue, has been widened, the ceiling raised, and all new lighting. And there's actually a new entrance at 7th Avenue. So it's really, truly remarkable, and it's transforming Penn Station. And of course, Grand Central Madison. This is about a 550,000 square foot terminal on the east side of Manhattan. And it's again, I hope you can get there if you haven't seen it already. It's an incredible facility. These projects as a standalone are impressive in their own right, but when they are delivered within a 5-year span, it's truly breathtaking. As Walt Disney once said, the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. And that's exactly what we have done. Now, that's a lot of investment, but what do all these projects provide to Long Island? Well, service, and plenty of it. Service has increased by 41%. That's over 260 trains a day as compared to before pre-Grand Central Madison opening. We operated over 302,000 trains in 2023. That's over 77,000 more trains than 2022. Reverse peak service increased by 56%. That equates to approximately 151 trains a day alone. There are more travel options, as now we have a major terminal on the east side and west side of Midtown Manhattan. So depending where you're going, we have a major terminal to accommodate you. Travel times have been reduced for thousands of customers. It's no longer necessary to take a Long Island Railroad train to Penn Station and get on a subway train to get over to the east side for Grand Central, as we have direct service to there. And we now have redundancy. As many have seen, unfortunately, especially as an example during the summer of hell with Amtrak's problems in Penn Station, whenever there was an issue, whether it's a service disruption or a complete shutdown, customers were basically stuck in Manhattan. Customers now have the opportunity to take that subway ride over to Grand Central, to continue their travels east. So we're giving plenty of options for our customers. There's also economic stimulus, as New York City and Long Island are dependent on each other. New York City provides good paying jobs, and Long Island provides a vast labor pool. A recent Regional Plan Association study found that New York City provides 1/3 of all wages earned on Long Island. Those wages generate real economic activity on Long Island from the spending of those wages. And the opening of Grand Central Madison and the service associated with it strengthens that bond. I mentioned reverse commuting earlier. The study also found that there are more reverse commuters commuting to Long Island than to northern New Jersey, the mid-Hudson Valley, or southwestern Connecticut. In fact, there are slightly more reverse commuters to Long Island now than there were in 2019. And you all know reverse peak service provides access to a wider labor pool for the businesses of Long Island. I would also say accessibility and equity, right? To not only the communities of Long Island, but the region as a whole. Customers now can travel between Long Island and Connecticut or upstate New York with ease because of Grand Central Madison. There is real connectivity within the region. Whether you're attending a Mets or Yankees game, I would prefer you attend a Mets game or go to the beaches of Long Island, or even seeing the leaves changing colors in upstate New York. It's never been easier. The increased service also promotes intra-island travel, which provides more access to public transportation for all the communities of Long Island. And lastly, the investments make our service more affordable. Our combo ticket makes traveling between Long Island and Connecticut or upstate cost effective. As an example, if you're on Long Island, you want to go to upstate or Connecticut, you would buy your base fare here on Long Island to go to Grand Central Madison. And then the extension of ride on Metro North's territory would only cost $8 no matter how far you travel on Metro North. So it's really economical. The city ticket has been expanded to peak periods. We also implemented the Far Rockaway ticket. Both of these are reduced fare tickets. And the cost of a monthly ticket is still cheaper than it was in 2019. But we're also investing in our infrastructure and building a better railroad as we are improving ADA accessibility. This year alone, 4 stations will become ADA accessible. And once the stations in our current capital plan are complete, we'll only have 7 stations to go before all 126 Long Island Railroad stations are accessible. There is also a heavy focus on our State of Good repair program, which includes maintenance work, such as miles of new track and concrete ties, replacement of switches and third rail, upgrades to our signal system, grade crossing renewals, investments to our power delivery systems, station renovations, and we're actually procuring a battery-powered rescue engine for the Grand Central Madison Tunnel. Now, I hope we never have to use this engine, but what this does, because the Grand Central Madison tunnels are a little bit smaller than the East River tunnels, we needed a more compact engine. So this engine will have the ability to go in and rescue a disabled train that we can't get out of the tunnel and not have to operate on third rail power nor on diesel power. So it's really a great technology. There's also climate resiliency efforts, such as raising Long Beach branch infrastructure. Now, I'm sure we all remember Sandy and the Long Beach branch, particularly Long Beach and Island Park and even parts of Oceanside, experienced severe flooding. With the federal Sandy relief funding, what we were able to do is raise critical infrastructure, such as signal cases and substations. Flood walls are being installed in Long Island City and West Side Yard. These walls actually encapsulate the yard and prevents water from intruding in the yard. And we're working with Amtrak to install floodgates at the east portals of the East River tunnels. Now, again, during Sandy, if you don't remember, track 1 and track 2 were flooded from Sandy, and that's going to necessitate an extended outage for each of those tunnels for rehabilitation work. But these gates will prevent from water getting into those tunnels. All these improvements are making a difference. Ridership is significantly coming back as a result of all this investment. 2023 ridership increased by more than 24% versus 2022. We transported over 65 million customers in 2023, and non-commutation ridership, which is riders that travel between the AM and PM rush hours, post-PM rush hour, the overnights and weekends, is higher now than it was in 2019 for 5 months in a row. We're averaging about 230,000 customers each weekday. Even on Mondays and Fridays, we're over 200,000. So customers are coming back. And to put things into context, pre-COVID, we were about 300,000 customers a day. So we're making progress. And just recently, customer satisfaction is increasing, which is now at 70%. Now, it's not where we want to be, but we are seeing improvements. Basically, in almost all categories, customer satisfaction has increased, which is great news. And it's telling us that we're doing the right things, we're implementing the right changes, and providing a really comprehensive service. But we can't let up. We need to continue and improve the service we provide. That is why we are focused on safety, reliability, and the customer experience. From that focus, we have identified 5 key goals at the Long Island Railroad. Operate safe service, improve the customer experience, build a better railroad, run an efficient railroad, and energize and develop our most valuable asset, our workforce. Achieving these goals will help us be successful going forward. Now, speaking of the future, we have to continue to invest in our system. And that is why our capital program is absolutely essential to deliver on those goals, not only for the service we provide, but for the sustainability of Long Island as well. This not only means the mega projects that we talked about, but also financing our basic state of good repair needs. You can't support the new project if the rest of the system is not maintained in a state of good repair. That is why congestion pricing is so important to the Long Island Railroad, Long Island, and the region. I think we can all agree that congestion in Midtown Manhattan is at a tipping point. This congestion has many negative impacts, such as poor air quality, delayed response for first responders, and economic impacts. It's projected that traffic congestion will have a $100 billion drag on the New York area metro economy over 5 years. Those are staggering numbers. Congestion pricing also provides critical capital funding for our system. We have come so far and accomplished so much. We cannot lose that momentum. Too much is at stake. Long Island cannot thrive without a fully functional, safe, and reliable Long Island Railroad. And to meet the needs of the future, we recently completed our 20-year needs assessment, which was an unprecedented effort to evaluate our system. It's available online for all those who want to see it, all 134 pages of it. And it's actually really good bedtime reading if you need to get to sleep. So I encourage you to take a look at it. This assessment actually helps shape our next capital program. Some of the areas we will focus on in the next program are continuing to make our system more accessible, purchasing new rolling stock, which is absolutely critical, such as Tier 4 dual mode passenger locomotives. Now, Tier 4 diesel locomotives are the most efficient diesel engines on the market today. But also the dual mode ability gives us the option to operate in diesel or electric mode. Now, our system comprises of about 65% electrified territory, and that's where the vast majority of our service is. So these engines give us the potential to operate mostly in electric mode while operating. New electric cars, Tier 4 work locomotives, and passenger coaches for our diesel fleet. And we'll also be performing more station upgrades. We'll be enhancing our capacity by improving the Jamaica infrastructure. Now, for those who've been on a train coming through Jamaica, we know how slow we operate. We're looking to change that. These improvements will upgrade the signal system, remove older, slower switches, and install new higher speed switches and increase platform lengths. All this will increase the speeds through Jamaica. And of course, we will continue our state of good repair efforts, including replacing or rehabilitating bridges and viaducts, making upgrades to the Atlantic Avenue Tunnel. These investments are an investment in our future, in our children's future. We've all seen the reports about people leaving New York, right? Recently in Newsday, it was projected, I think, from 21 to 22, about 101,000 residents leaving New York State. And just within the last couple of weeks, there was a report of a 7% reduction in student enrollment on Long Island. We need to keep our residents here on Long Island and provide a place for our children to plant their roots and start their own families here on Long Island. I know I want my children to stay here on Long Island, and the Long Island Railroad's part in this is to provide a convenient, reliable transportation system, which is vital to the longevity of Long Island and the region. Now, I said a lot, and I think it's time that I complete it, because I could sit here and talk all day about the Long Island Railroad, and I know you don't want to listen to the train guy talk all day. So I'll turn it back over to you for any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Rob. First of all, any questions? Thank you very much for your presentation. Questions and comments from council members first.
Just congratulations. I would just like to say that I had stopped taking the train for a very long time. And I get excited, especially to take Grand Central Madison. It's a beautiful walk, but also Penn Station. I've been recently nearby, and the improvements are very impressive. So good things take a long time, but it always very much worth waiting for.
Thank you, Nancy. Questions, comments? Michael?
Yeah, I just wanted to say to thank the Long Island Railroad for their continued support of freight rail for Long Island. It's a really extremely important economic and environmental benefit. So we will continue to work with the railroad to even make that more efficient.
Absolutely. More trucks off the road.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We have a great relationship with New York and Atlantic. We coordinate with them constantly, and I know they look to boost their service, and we coordinate with them. We just want to make sure it doesn't impact the Long Island Railroad customers, but we're always there with them, working side by side, and it's a great relationship we have with them.
Thank you.
Yes. Rob, I'd like to add, I reviewed the capital plan, and a couple of comments. First off, I think, as Michael White brought up, it's critical that we move a lot of our freight onto the island and off the island by rail, because our our roadway infrastructure is overloaded, and frankly, it impedes our economy, our environment, et cetera. So we support your efforts there to increase freight rail capability on the railroad. I'd like to bring something up, though. If you look at the capital plan, I look at it, most of it looks like you're taking the existing system and basically getting it to a state of good repair. I hope it's not that, look and say we have, we did the second track, third track, and Grand Central Madison, that, that Long Island's done. And I know you may say no, but we have, Long Island, we just produced a report last meeting that Long Island has an imbalance in tax payments. We send to Albany $15 billion a year more than we get back. And that's double what it was 10 years ago. Now, the mainline improvements are critical, and many will argue that it's, decades overdue. But we have the Port Jeff line, and I from what you say, you live up in that area there, so you're very familiar with it. But we still have, diesel operations up there, which some may say is an antiquated technology, especially for a major suburban area. In Suffolk County, we've got over 1.5 million people. And I believe on that line itself, I believe it's over 400,000 people are in that service area there. So the Port Jeff line, which really services Stony Brook University. You talk about, 7% drop in enrollments in higher ed. Stony Brook is a major economic generator here and a future educator, an educator of our future workforce here on the island, and it's critical. That as well as, the governor has announced her plans to try and expand the number of housing units that are on Long Island. We have Long Island, actually, the Long Island Regional Planning Council did a 25-year sustainability plan back in 2010, and we identified lack of affordable housing as one of the two major impediments to our long-term sustainability, the second being an unsustainable tax burden. If we're going to be able to create the housing necessary, and I think you would agree, the optimal location is in transit nodes. I think we all recognize that. But to get those transit nodes really optimized, we need electrification. And we don't have that on the Port Jeff line. A second major improvement, which frankly I saw lacking, was the relocation of the Yaphank station. Yaphank station right now, it's really in, it could be in the middle of the farms. It's doesn't get utilized and is not really providing much value to the railroad. The proposal is to move it, relocate it up by Brookhaven National Lab, which is frankly our largest employer, single site employer and major economic generator for Long Island. And we need to have that Yaphank station relocated. So we still need to have capital investment in our system here. Like I said, we've got 3 million people here on the island here. We are the second largest economic generator of the state for Washington and also Albany. But the way we're going to do this is to basically have the pump primed, and capital investment, infrastructure improvements will enable our economy to grow. But if we don't grow, and if commutation continues to become more of an issue, and we're not able to grow our economy, frankly, Long Island has major challenges here. So it's important, and I just want to speak on behalf of the council and a lot of people on the island here that say, well, it's fine. We have, third track, Grand Central, Madison, a second track. I know that's on the main line and the South Shore. But what about the North Shore? And like I said, we got 400,000 people in that catchment area, a service area up on Port Jeff for electrification, and also a relocation of the Yaphank station. I didn't see any reference to those in the capital plan. So I appreciate if you can speak to that. Thank you.
Sure, John. You said a lot, and I'll try to remember everything you said and provide a response to it. But look, throughout my presentation, I talked about, we need investment. We need a good functioning transportation system for Long Island to thrive and survive, frankly, right? If I'm not mistaken, Long Island is probably the biggest suburban location in the country, right? With the commuters and everything. It's one of the largest urban districts in the country. So
if I may, Robert, I'll just say to you, because a lot of people don't realize, we talk to people in other states. To put it in perspective, Long Island, Nassau, Suffolk has a bigger population than the city of Chicago. If we were a city, we would be the third largest city in America. We also have a gross domestic product greater than 17 states. So we are an economic engine, but we have to make sure that we're going to continue to be so. So go ahead. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay. All good. So, as I mentioned in the presentation, right, there's a lot of state good repair, right, which is needed to keep our system running and operating and being a reliable system, right? So any capital program has to invest heavily in state of good repair. It's absolutely essential. As I said, you can build all these shiny new projects and infrastructure, but you can't support them if the rest of the infrastructure is falling apart. So we need to consistently investing in our existing system. You mentioned the Port Jefferson branch. Now that was part of the comparative evaluation, right? So it was looked at and it's still ongoing, right? We haven't completed our capital program yet. It's still in the evaluation process. It'll be compared to other projects on Long Island and in New York City. And, as I mentioned, Long Island is not done, right? I live here. I want my kids to live here. I want Long Island to thrive and be a fully functioning community. So in looking at that evaluation, it'll be compared to other projects to see if it can be included in the next program. Now, to the comparative evaluation, it did okay. It did good, right? Some of the things that held it back a little bit were the price tag. It's $3.1 billion. And when you look at that price tag, you mentioned, the third track is good in Grand Central Madison. But if we would have fully modernized, let's say, the Port Jefferson branch, it wouldn't get you anything if the main line west of Hicksville and into Grand Central wasn't completed. You need to kind of build that capacity first in order to put that enhancements out east. So it's really, an overall plan. You can't look at it as in terms of one segment.
No, you're absolutely right. We agree on that. It would be a bottleneck if you did it the other way. Agreed.
So, when you look at the Port Jefferson, modernization or whatever we want to call it, if we were to electrify it tomorrow, right, it wouldn't provide any benefit to the branch itself, right? Because you still have single tracking, right? It's about 23 miles, give or take, from Huntington to Port Jefferson, and you have about 4 passing sidings along the way, which isn't optimum. It's not one of our most reliable branches in terms of on-time performance. So you have to look at the whole picture, right? It's not just a matter of electrifying. There's the single tracking and rolling stock. So there's a major investment involved in this. And part of the evaluation, it did pretty good in reducing travel times. I think it was about 3.6 minutes if you look at it. The number of new riders is where it hurt, the project a little bit. But we also have to look at, if there's customers going from the main line, the Ronkonkoma branch over to Port Jefferson branch, that's not such a bad thing either, right? Because you have to look at Long Island as a whole, and what's the growth looking like at communities along the main line. So if we opened up capacity by moving people over to Port Jefferson branch, that's a good thing. So my long-winded point is it's definitely not a dead. It's being looked at as part of the whole program to see where it fits in and what can be done. But it is that's a mega project. As big as third track was, the Port Jefferson branch would be a much larger project. But by no means is Long Island dead. There's still heavily investment in Long Island, and I think that'll continue. You mentioned the Yaphank station relocation.
Yes.
Actually, in December, an RFP went out for bidders to bid on it, and we hope to award that design build project and hopefully begin construction by the end of this year. So that's good. That's progressing that project. And
Okay.
I actually met with the county executive Romaine, and he expressed his desires to get that moving as well. So I think we're all in agreement that's something that hopefully will take place shortly.
Great. That's an important one for not just Suffolk County, but also for the island too. And that as we know too, BNL is a critical facility here for the metropolitan area and the nation. And so, to the extent that the railroad can provide good transportation access, I think we're looking for that. So thank you on that. Any other questions or comments from the council before? And I do want to mention, we have Supervisor Wareheim on our council here, and they've gotten an award for downtown revitalization, and they're actually advocating for creation of housing in Smithtown, also Kings Park, and so they've been a leader here. Doing that, as we have Mayor Kennedy, who's on the main line, but so that area up there in Smithtown is going to be I'm sure it's of interest to him and his community too on electrification, because that's on the Port Jeff line also. So
Yeah, that's correct, John, and thank you. Robert, just as John stated, we just received a $10 million grant, and we are in the process of sewering all 3 business districts in Smithtown, which consist of St. James, Smithtown, and Kings Park. All 3 of those business districts have a Long Island Railroad station in them. So John's comments and your response to how important it is to pay attention to those lines once this housing is built, which is part of the governor's plan to build transit-oriented development around Long Island Railroad stations, is crucial to what we're doing here in Smithtown.
thank you.
Well, I think, like I mentioned again in the presentation, right? We're seeing people leave New York. We got to do everything we can. We have to increase the housing stock. Making housing more affordable and transit-oriented development is a great opportunity to do that. I mean, look at Mineola. I think that's a great example of what transit-oriented development can do for a community. And Hicksville is actually in the process of constructing one now. The buildings have been knocked down, and we've been working closely with them because it will provide some enhancements to our property as well. And we're always welcome to new customers on board. We have the capacity, get cars off the road, and it's a great opportunity.
Well, you see it, you bring up Mineola too, Robert. is you see the investment that NYU Langone is put into Mineola, and with your third track, and Mineola has become the hub, and along with Hicksville and Nassau County. So that, in conjunction with Ronkonkoma, we believe that's going to spur economic development. We have it out in Ronkonkoma too. Major proposals there for economic development, and as well as transit-oriented housing. So I think, build it and they will come. I think the railroad is, leading the way, and candidly, with the vision, I think it was Governor Cuomo, made it happen, but that was facilitated by the railroad and yourself and the leadership of the MTA and the railroad. So we appreciate that, because that is critical for us growing the economy, and also for the creation of affordable housing too. So any other questions, comments from the council before we open it up?
Jeff Guillot had his hand raised there. Jeff, did you want to comment?
I did have my hand raised, and I had really intriguing questions about both North Shore access and transit-oriented development that John Cameron covered. So I will simply say I'm coming at you live from Babylon Village. I can walk to the train station from my house here, and I commute in and out of Penn once or twice a week for my day job. And I applaud the Long Island Railroad for the tremendous job they've done in revitalizing Penn. I like from the days after the pandemic to now, it is a night and day difference. And sir, thank you so much for bringing Rose's Pizza back. Just an incredible infrastructure accomplishment that establishment now exists. Once again, and I cannot overstate how much that did for commuter morale and such. And again, I thank you, John, for thinking of what I was going to ask before I asked it.
Thank you, Jeff.
I think a lot of credit has to go to our chairman, Jano Lieber. He's really made it a priority, those terminals, Penn Station, and the governor as well. Penn Station is really on her radar, and she's focused on it. So good news for us and good news for Long Island.
Great. Appreciate it. Questions? Alan, do we have questions from our audience?
Yes. So just a reminder for those who may have joined late, you can submit a question or a comment by using the raised hand button down below. That'll send a command to me that you want to come off mute and ask your question, or you can enter a typed question or comment using the Q&A. And as of the moment, we have one of each. So first we'll go with a raised hand. I believe that came in first. And so Karen Bloomer, you should now have the ability to take yourself off mute and ask your question or share your comment.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Oh, hi. Yes, I'm Karen Bloomer. I'm with a group called TALS, taking a lead on zero waste. And one of the things we're trying to do, besides reduce all of our waste for Long Island, is to look at the transportation systems. And I have a quick question. We live out in Aquabog, and through a forest, I can see the train go by from Riverhead to Greenport every day, and it's a commuter line, and very often it's empty. So as we go forward, we're trying to think outside the box to how to optimize some of our transportation systems. Might there be a possibility, or could we look at this with your offices in terms of possibly part of our goal is, instead of shipping garbage out and using the rails, that we start treating garbage as a resource and turning it into products. And if we have more products and clean things to ship, that we might organize, piggyback the use of trains. For example, what goes by here from Riverhead to Greenport are 2 cars and an engine, and possibly maybe taking a small amount of freight if we start transforming some of our economy and shipping goods to Greenport, or getting Greenport, to send things out. Would that be a possibility?
Well, freight operations are run by the New York and Atlantic Railway, so that they would be responsible, for accommodating freight. It wouldn't combine a freight or waste or anything else like that on a passenger train. But I'm sure the New York and Atlantic Railway is, always interested in expanding their business, and we would coordinate to make sure that they could have the access and the ability to get to those locations. So I would encourage you, if it's something real and tangible, to reach out to New York and Atlantic Railway and coordinate something, and then between the three of us, we can see the feasibility of it and progress from there.
Okay, who would be a good person to talk to there?
I don't have any contacts offhand. If let me try and figure out how I can get you a contact. If you would, bear with me, maybe I can.
Okay, yeah, and John is on our executive committee, so, maybe you could get that info to him. That would be great. Okay, thank you
That's
very
fine.
much.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Okay, Alan?
All right, thank you, Karen. Give me one moment. We do have one question entered into the Q&A from Bob A. And Bob writes, anything being done at the Long Island Railroad to minimize overtime abuses, especially given the impact on inflated pensions that are paid out over decades?
Well, I can say it's a focus of ours to reduce the amount of overtime. We've over the last several years, we've instituted new processes and oversight to try and make sure the overtime that's worked is proper. Our employees are where they're supposed to be, and it's truly needed overtime. I think as we progressed through COVID, we had a high vacancy rate, and it was really difficult to bring on board new employees. We've since been very aggressive in our hiring, and we're getting to a comfortable place, filling those vacancies and being at a good head count. There's always some form of overtime that's necessary, but our responsibility as managers is to work with the labor organizations to try and root out those instances where people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. But I have to say, I'm extremely proud of our workforce here. As we've talked about all these mega projects, they had a big hand in accomplishing all that and delivering those things on time. And I'm proud of them. And, we'll continue to look at this and be as efficient as possible. As if you don't recall, the governor and the legislature, and, led by our chairman, worked to get us proper funding, operating funding, right? If you look at transit agencies across the country, they're hitting what's called the fiscal cliff. We've managed to identify efficiencies. We were provided funding, but the operating agencies were tagged with becoming more efficient and reducing cost. And at the Long Island Railroad, we have to reduce operating costs by $60 million, recurring savings. So we're constantly looking at this, and we're trying to find ways to be more efficient. And it is one of our top priorities, as I stated earlier, and our goals is to run an efficient railroad. So we're trying to become more efficient.
Thank you,
Rob.
for that. All right, we do have another new hand raised from Joseph Martelli. Joseph, you should now have an option to take yourself off mute, and when you do, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Free and Mr. Garcia, for spending your time with us. My question, Mr. Free, Elmont UBS, tremendous station, outstanding. It affects us here in the town of Hempstead, especially with us in public safety. Do you have any information on ridership, where the numbers are trending, and do you see them continually rising? I take it myself, your staff has been nothing but outstanding and courteous. It's a great ride and a great way to get to the game, and it reduces traffic in the west end of the town of Hempstead. But just curious on the numbers, if you have any available.
I'm sorry, Joseph. On hand, I don't have any available. But depending on the event, you'll see. If the Islanders are playing the Rangers, you'll get a pretty good ridership there. But definitely, since the opening of UBS, we've seen an increase in ridership, as we're providing a tremendous amount of service. We even operate extra trains to and from the location. We've instituted a gating program to help ease, customers get in and out, ensure that we're collecting the fares, for revenue. But I don't have any specific numbers offhand, but I can tell you, from opening of UBS, it's definitely increased. And depending on the event, you'll see spikes depending who it is.
Well, thank you, Rob. And this, again, the staff has been outstanding, greeting the customers and the ridership and our constituents. So thank you on behalf of the town.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Ellen, any other questions raised or no?
I don't see any at the moment. Just going to do one
Okay.
final call for folks typed or hands raised. All right.
If
none.
not, I have one last question, Rob. If you could maybe give us an update, our understanding, because we've seen a number of, in fact, we had submitted a letter of support to the governor on her plan or initiative to try and renovate, Penn Station and the surrounding community. I understand there's been a number of proposals in there, and could you give us an update as to where things stand with regard to the overall Penn Station plan?
I don't have any specifics. I'm sorry, John. I know it's, there's been different proposals out there, and this mainly goes through our construction and development.
Right.
TA. I don't have any specifics, but I know, as I mentioned previously, it's a priority of the governor. She really wants to enhance Penn Station, as we've gotten a little taste of it from the 33rd Street corridor. But I don't have any.
Do you have a sense on the timing? Is that something we can expect a selection in the first half of the year, or do you have a sense on that at all? Or?
No, I'm sorry, John. I don't have anything.
Okay. I just know it's been out there, it's been talked about, and we had actually supported the governor's initiative too. And I know there's a number of proposals that have been out there, and so we're interested. So if you hear anything, or Hector can maybe just let us know when there's something. We just want to stay on top of that also. Okay.
Yeah, it is a priority, as we said. It's something that they're working through. It's a tremendous. There's so many moving parts to it, right? With MSG and everything like that, and so I know they're working on it, and it is a priority.
Great, thanks. That being said, if there's no other questions or comments, I just want to, on behalf of the council and all our those who have tuned into the meeting today, to thank you, Rob. This has been, it's very informative. The railroad it's our backbone, and frankly, one thing I think we do pride ourselves on is we do have a good mass transit system here on the island here, one which we believe still needs to grow for the future. But I want to salute you and the railroad for what you do and what you provide. And we look forward to continuing to work together for the betterment of Long Island and the New York metropolitan area. So thanks so much for your attendance today and presentation.
Well, thank you for having me, and the work that you do is critical for Long Island, right? As I said, I'm a lifelong resident of Long Island. I want my children to stay here. So the work that you do is absolutely essential to ensure that, Long Island is not forgotten about, and that we make sure that we can continue to go forward and, be sustainable and everything else. So I appreciate all the work that you do. It's essential.
Thanks so much, Robert. I appreciate it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Rich?
Okay, the next agenda item is the chairman's report.
Okay, thank you, Rich. So as is customary in my chairman's remarks, as many of you who attended our meetings know this, that I tend to attempt to reflect on the fact that while we as Long Islanders live on an island, we are most definitely affected by what is happening in our state, our nation, and the world. And globally, as we all know, there's much unrest and actually war taking place in the Middle East, specifically with Israel and Hamas in Palestine, Russia and the Ukraine, attacks on our merchant ships in the Red Sea, and actually bombings of bases we have in the Middle East. So there's much tumult taking place, which actually translates back into our impact on our service members, but also on our economy also. Economically, also, things are not strong throughout much of Europe and also in Asia, too. There's an article in the Times today about Japan actually slipping into a recession. and actually dropping behind Germany on its economic growth and economic output, which is surprising for a lot of us. Nationally, there's much disagreement, as we all know, and friction between the Senate and the House, principally on how we secure the U.S. southern border. And that major disagreement has caused a stalemate between the respective houses as exhibited by a failure to pass two House bills to fund Israel and the Ukraine. And the election of Tom Suozzi in the 3rd Congressional District here on the island has actually further shrunk the Republicans' slim majority in the House. So that's going to tend to affect things as we move forward also. Economically, while inflation's been muted somewhat lately in the last few months, the latest numbers indicate that it's still going to be an issue here for probably the most of this year here. And that has an effect on our Long Islanders for sure. And the problem and the unrest, not only in the Middle East, but also the Red Sea, is going to actually contribute toward increased oil and fuel costs, which translates to higher cost of living here for all Long Islanders too. And I think the upcoming presidential elections, we all know, will start to dominate the news media for the rest of this year. As we all know here, hold on one second if I can. In the state, the governor's proposed budget significantly reduced school aid to many Long Island districts in spite of Long Island's the Regional Planning Council's recently published study, which indicates, as I mentioned earlier to Robert Free, about us sending $15 billion a year more to Albany than we get back. So that's actually translated into major cutbacks on a lot of school districts, and I'm aware of at least one district which is actually closing the school as a result of that also. But as we know too, there's other issues in the state and the region which potentially affect Long Island, and financial implications of dealing with the tens of thousands of migrants which have relocated to the city and the region. This issue has actually risen to become, I think, the number one issue actually ahead of the economy for most Americans nationwide. And the governor has stated her priority for downstate communities to provide additional housing, as I alluded to earlier, a major priority of this council. But that challenge, as well as growing our economy, need to be met if we're going to continue to have a thriving, sustainable Long Island for the present and future of the Long Islanders. So it's something we continue to work on. As we know, we have challenges here, and Long Island's always, we're resistant to change. That's second nature for Long Islanders, but it's change is what we need to do in order to actually, like I said, address these challenges. But here, we'll continue to do that as a council and continue to advocate for the betterment of the island. So that being said, Rich, a council report?
Yes, thank you, John. As many of you are familiar with, as part of the Long Island Nitrogen Action Plan, the council developed the Long Island Water Quality STEM Challenge to promote project-based learning in science, technology, engineering, and math for all Long Island middle and high schools. The Long Island Water Quality Challenge is an opportunity for students in grades 6 through 12 to play an important role in improving water quality by designing green infrastructure to reduce nitrogen on school grounds. 20 project proposals were received by the February 2nd due date. This is the largest number of proposals received since the program began 5 years ago. The selection committee is reviewing the proposals now, and winning teams will be announced in early March. The winning teams have the opportunity of being awarded a $2,500 grant for use in implementation or partial implementation of their winning project designs. So really excited about the participation of our youth in this program, reducing nitrogen. And that completes my report, John.
Thank you, Rich. Okay. New business. Anybody in the council, first off, any new business? Okay. That being said, I'd like to open it up. Any other public comment? Any comments from the public? Alan? Any?
Scanning the list, I do not see any hands raised or any new entrants into the Q&A.
Okay. Okay. That being said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
Jeff.
Second.
Seconded. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So moved. We look forward to, we have a number of other things. We've been, the executive committee, we've been discussing some upcoming meeting topics. And as we all know, there's plenty to discuss here and trying to address here on the island here. So with that being said, I'd like to wish you all stay warm, enjoy the rest of the winter, and we'll be talking soon. So be well. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank
Well,
you.
everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.